Hi, everybody. Okay, so there's this thing that people talk about regarding visual libraries and visual design, and I'm gonna throw my hat in the ring here, and I'm not saying those things aren't important, but I also feel like there's something kind of underneath all of that that is, well, it's engineering. So engineering is problem solving that you would use to, I guess, serve as a framework, which you'll put underneath as a structural component before you start throwing on all the visual design, right? So visual design, they talk about shape language and that kind of thing, whereas engineering is more like, let's say you're going to design a car, okay? So if it's car and it's like, well, what era are we in? Is it, are we in a steampunk world, and or is it like just, is it like maybe World War I, World War II technology? Is it something Victorian? Are we on an alien planet? Is it what time is it? And so the reason why the setting is important is because then that, well, not only does that setting go in and inform your visual library, but it also informs what kind of technology is available to you. So if we look at just present day technology, and we'll stay on the topic of a car, we're using what mostly. Well, we've got e-vehicles. We're on the dawn of e-vehicles, which are actually becoming quite prevalent, and then we also have the internal combustion engine fossil fuel driven stuff, right? So basically today's talk, I can't, there's no way that I'm ever going to be able to be completely comprehensive on this, because it's not a subject that you could cover in an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours. Okay, this is like, I'm just trying to bust open some heads here. I'm trying to open your mind and introduce to you the field of engineering. So in this case, if we're going to deal with an internal combustion engine, well, it runs on this magical, imagine this magical fluid, which is made of 60 million year old creatures, dead creatures that has been hyper compressed and hyper fermented into a magical fluid that contains the power of entire lifetimes absorbing solar energy compressed into into a viscous black substance that, when refined, can make a heavy metal vehicle weighing a couple tons travel for several miles, right? Like per gallon, right? Like, this is an incredible fluid we call oil and gasoline, right? Like, it's quite an incredible thing what fossil fuels are. So an internal combustion engine, right? Well, in the case of a car, there's the fuel, right? There's the fuel source, right? And so the fuel source, then we talk about things like, well, miles per gallon. What's your mileage? What's the efficiency? Actually, no, not the efficiency. We talk about the energy density. Right? It's like, how far can you go on one gas tank? How big is your gas tank? So, basically how much your I guess where you can talk about things. Yeah, how big's the gas tank? Or maybe is storage. I'm going to call it energy storage. Because in the case of e-vehicles, they have batteries, right? How big's the freaking battery? And then there's things like your power output, right? The power output is like, well, we talk about the horsepower of a vehicle. The power output will govern things like acceleration, right? That's your right. They talk about what 0 to 60, right? How many seconds does it take to go from 0 to 60 miles an hour? Because the thing is that if it has like different sources of energy, will have different power output and acceleration. Top speed, aerodynamics, because you've got to push through the fluid of air. The air will slow you down, right? It's like you've got, so these things will govern things like the shape of the car. All of these things are physics problems, and the physics problems will very much govern the ultimate shape of your vehicle, right? So people like to talk about, oh, I'm going to make a big vehicle, and this will signify that it's it carries it has a lot of strength and blah, blah. I'm like, no. What you do is you think, what are the needs of your thing that you're designing, right? If you're designing a car, if you're designing a bus, you're designing, when I was a kid, in junior high, we had industrial arts class, shop class. Okay, shop classes. The first thing we had to do was we had to design a keychain, and then from that keychain, we could choose, the material. Were we going to make it out of wood, out of metal, or plastic? Right? Then we had things like we had to write down 3 things it had to do. 3 needs, right? 3 wants, which were things that would be nice if it could do this, nice if it could do that. And then 3 must not, right? So things like, it must not eventually worry a hole through your pocket, right? So that meant, you wanted to avoid sharp corners on your keychain, right? Well, the keys will probably wind up doing that, which means, hey, maybe your keychain could be made to fit over the keys and prevent, the worrying of holes in your pockets, right? So there were things that your keychain must not do, there were things like the wants, right? And the must not might be bridged together, right? You might maybe how many keys, right? How many keys must your keychain be able to hold? Or things like it must not lose the keys, right? Must be secure in how it holds it. So this is where we start to this is the answering of the questions, right? This is the answering of the things that it needed to be able to do, the things it must not do, the things that would be nice to have. And so these questions come together to help you decide, how will your thing look? Right? This is something that is, I rarely hear this talked about in the realms of visual design, because it's not just a visual thing. This is the realm of engineering, okay? Which it's like, God, it's like whenever you're dealing with, when you watch a movie and they have a movie about hackers, right? And they have a movie about like special agents doing this kind of stuff and that kind of thing, and then it's like, then we have to run it through Mythbusters, and it turns out a lot of this stuff is fucking bullshit, because some artist came along with it and decided to shit their way through, and they decided to use style over substance, and they shit their way through, they bullshit their way through the thing, and it turned out to all be fake, a whole made up to be a whole bunch of like fucking bullshit. So it means that even if you're going to come up with something that is fictional, right, you should still think about the limitations of it, and that way it becomes a little bit more plausible. And to me, what is most interesting, as a personal preference, okay, my personal preference for fiction is not necessarily something that is real, but it has to be convincing. It's got to be something where it's like, it's not, it has limits, it has limitations, right? Like let's take something that's magic, right? We'll take the magical world, and we're going to say, all right, fine. We're going to be able to cast spells and shit, right? You're a wizard, Harry. That's right. You'll get an owl, and you're going to be able to cast spells and shit. But I'm like, okay, but what's the cost? What's the cost of these fucking spells, right? It's got to have some kind of fucking, it's going to have to take some sort of energy, right? Like you got to pay something, right? Usually in video games, they have like MP mana, right? They got mana points. But to me, mana points is just like, well, okay, but wait, how do you store mana, right? Where's the mana stored? Is it going to your brain? Is it stored in your boobs? Where is the mana stored, right? Is it take from your food reserves? Do you get hungry when you cast magic? Do you get tired when you cast it, right? And then if you get tired, let's say, okay, fine. Let's say you get tired, right? Let's say actually, you know what happens if you run out of magic? If you cast too many fucking spells, you go to sleep. And let's see, how much sleepiness does it give you? Let's say you've got some telekinesis magic, okay? Some telekinesis magic which is about, let's say you're going to lift up a rock. You're going to use your magic wand. You're going to go Shazam, and you're going to like lift up a rock. Okay, well, how big is that rock? How tired would it really make you if you walked over and lifted up that rock yourself? How tired is it going to make you? And so maybe that's the cost, right? That's the actual record. That's how much sleepiness it inflicts on you to lift up that rock. You wave your magic wand, you wave your magic wand at the thing and you cast the fucking, okay, lift the rockium, and the fucking rock lifts up, and it makes you that much more tired. And if you do it enough times, that if you lifted up that rock that many times, it would make you fall asleep. That's your equivalent cost. So this is an important thing, is to figure out how many times can you cast that rock spell before you fall asleep. Oh, but what if you're an insomniac? Holy shit. Wouldn't that make you like fucking like a god tier wizard? Wouldn't that make you like an incredible spellcaster? Holy shit. What if all the most like amazing Grand Lich wizards are like, they're fucking insomniacs? Oh, but there's still a cost. There's still a cost, right? So it's like maybe they don't fall asleep, but they get dreams. Waking dreams. They don't get sleepy. They go crazy. They go insane. Right? So the cost of casting spells is insanity. So it means that any of the problem with the Grand Lich wizards is that they keep casting spells, but they're all insane. They become like, some are, and people go insane in different ways, right? So some of them are become, some of them are actually useful to humanity, and some of them are actually fucking become demon lords that they have to deal with, right? So this is the thing, right? Is that by engaging with the mechanics of your world, the physics of your world, this becomes the seed, the wellspring of world building, of figuring out what is this. Like when you want to come up, people are always asking, how do I become creative? Blah, 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 how do I become creative? And people say, oh, you need limitations. These are the limitations. These are the limitations you impose on your world. And so it comes up with now you got problems that you have to solve, and through the coming up with the solutions of the problems, it starts create necessity is the mother of invention. It causes you to invent things. It forces you to invent ideas. It forces you to invent a world of people who can cast magic, but it comes with a cost that brings insanity and brings out, now you've got this thing where it's like, maybe you have a fucking, a magical SWAT squad, and they have to fucking go after insane they have to go after people. They have to go after wizards who've lost themselves, who've fucking lost themselves. They have to they're basically the insane squad unit, right? Like they're basically the insomniac, or yeah. It's basically a unit of wizards who are insomniacs, but they just happen to be the ones that yes, they're crazy, but they're good. They're the good kind of crazy, right? And they go after the bad crazy. And then basically it's like every episode they have like a different demon lord. They go after a different demon lord. Every fucking week. Every fucking week there's a new episode, and the Insomniac unit has to go after a different demon lord. And the demon lords are all crazy in different ways. They all have different delusions. And so their powers manifest according to, their forms of craziness, right? So like, never mind being able to come up with like a fucking visual design. Like you come up with a whole franchise. You come up with an entire original IP through the solving of these problems. All right. So back to the visual design, the visual design. It's like, if you're gonna say, okay, fine, if we're gonna have like a magic wand, and maybe the magic wand uses some kind of stored thing, right? What if our stored thing is, well, I mean, okay, so it's not a battery. What if it's a living creature? what if it's a fucking, I don't know, a hamster, or maybe it's cloned brain, right? It's a piece of cloned brain. So the cloned brain, like the part that's like that governs sleep, the hypothalamus, or I don't know which part it is, fucking, So instead, what we have are literally cloned brain bits sitting, inside. They're cloned brain bits sitting inside a little capsule with like a couple of electrodes jammed into them, and so yeah, they got like electrical contacts in them like that, and then, oh fuck, maybe it's how many spells is it good for, right? How many spells is this little brain battery unit good for? And because it's got to fit into the handle of the wand, right? So I guess your wand is, well, here, let's shrink this down so that it's actually small enough to be usable, like so it fits on my, okay, right? So it fits onto the fucking wand. Right. And so, again, we can play around with like, well, why do we have a long fucking rod, right? So and why does it have to be this shape? Could we not make it gun shaped? Right? Like I've always noticed that they always have to have the wand that they have to swizzle around and do the thing. Now when you have a question, okay, we have to swizzle the wand around to cast our fucking spell. Now, I'm not saying don't do that, right? That might be a stylistic choice, right? Maybe stylistically you want to do the fucking wand swizzling, okay? Maybe the reason they do the wand swizzling is we have to invent a reason, okay? So the thing is that not only do we invent solutions as an engineer, we also invent problems. So you could have, maybe there's like a fucking light. There's like a fucking glowing light at the end of it, right? The glowing light is stylistic, okay? But we'll have a reason for it later. So when you swizzle the thing around, it leaves behind like a light trail, and they use it for drawing sigils. There you go. You use it, you draw a fucking pentagram, or you can draw like different fucking shapes or whatever, right? You literally air draw, and you got to be fast at it, right? So there's the skill. There's the skill. You got to be able to swizzle out a light pattern, and maybe that light pattern is what determines the spell that is cast, right? And so there's like a programming language that's kind of like made with the light patterns. So again, right? This is using the engineering to drive the design, and this means that it comes. This is what's going to come up with your visual design. It's again designing through problem solving, and then you can say, well, this light, what's special about this light? Oh, right, the fucking fact that the light can hang in midair. Why can that light hang in midair? Why? Why does it hang in midair? Is it goes magic? No. Not just because magic. Maybe because it's it's a bug butt, right? It's like a firefly. It's a firefly's bug butt, except it's a special kind of firefly. It's a firefly that can create a light that hangs in the air. Maybe it's like a 3D printed, like a 3D printing thing, right? Or maybe it shoots out a kind of foam that's like lighter than air, at least when it's ignited, right? Like when it's glowing and it makes enough heat, and it's a foam that kind of floats in midair for a little while. Kind of like a bubble. Oh, it's like a bubble wand. Oh, it's a fucking bubble wand, right? Because a bubble wand, right, does exactly that. It makes bubble trails in the air, except it's an incandescent bubble wand. So let's write that down. Oops. In my excitement, I forgot how to spell. It's glowing, right? And it's glowing. Right? So that means whenever you swizzle a thing around, it like leaves behind a glowing bubble trail. And the thing is that bubble trails gradually drift, and eventually, it may pop and disappear. So you got to be fast about it. And that's how you cast your fucking spells. So I don't know. I haven't seen that yet. Right? This is how you become original. Everybody wants to be original and new and unique. And I'm like, well, this is the problem with the ChatGPT won't do that for you. Right? You have to eventually come up with the things to tell ChatGPT, right? You're going to eventually have to prompt it. So at the very least, sit down and engineer this shit out. Maybe ChatGPT will give you your initial idea, but it probably will be, well, it'll give you one idea that if anybody else used the exact same prompt as you, it would come out the same way. So it's like, that's a problem, is that the same prompt will make the same art come out. And this is where I guess your visual style is going to have to come through. This is why you need, your visual library and all that other stuff, but to make it look unique. But to come up with something underneath all that, you need to have to be able to ask the questions. And so I guess, yeah, you know what? Maybe that we have our little cerebellum. We need something which is going to squirt out the bubbles. We need, well, a source of the bubble material, right? So there needs to be some kind of reservoir, and you got to be able to refill the thing, right? So there's a reservoir. You have to refill the thing. Maybe there's a cartridge that you eject and screw in a new one or slap in a new one. And then you start asking yourself, where did these things come from, right? So all these things, like the cartridges, what's the production? Do they make them in a factory? Are they made in a magic shop? Run by some little old granny with a magic monkey, or maybe a dog. Maybe the dog makes it. I don't know, right? So the thing is that you got to ask yourself, how are these things produced? How are they supplied? How are they replaced when you run out of them? Where are they getting these things from? Or maybe they can't make them anymore. Maybe they're in limited supply. Maybe the ways to make these things have been lost to time. Or maybe they're a brand new thing that is still in development and they're still working on them. And so maybe the versions of these cartridges that are coming out are like the version 1.0. Or they're the beta versions. Maybe the beta versions have problems, right? And so dealing with the problems of these things becomes an element of your story. So this is why the engineering route is so fucking fascinating, right? It's like there's so many people who have writer's block and artist block, and it's because they don't have any ideas. They don't know how to come up with ideas. And I say, well, take the engineer's approach, and that is you're going to have to you have to figure out problem solving, do problem solving, and make up your own problems, and then from there you can design around it. Let me think for a second here, right? And so then if you have something like your power source, right? Your power source, you work on, I think I call a footprint, right? So the footprint is you figure out your power source, you figure out things like control, right? If you have a control like a little thing like a switch, right? What are your control pieces going to look like? This is just black boxing, by the way, right? You just draw them as little blocks. Draw them. How much space do they take up? That's all that matters, right? So control. Fuel. I guess we would call it fuel. What's the fuel source? What's your control source? What's the are there any like let's see, what else is there between fuel and control? Oh, right. There's the output. So if there's like some prongs on the end of this thing or whatever, right, you need an output. This is not a comprehensive list, okay? You're gonna have to come up with these things. And then maybe there's certain like things, right? Because maybe you can't put these things all next to each other. Maybe the problem is that the output generates a lot of heat. If it generates a lot of heat and you can't have the heat next to the fuel, can't have the heat next to the control, so maybe you need a certain amount of standoff. Right? Maybe you need to separate those things. Maybe you need some heat sinks, right? Some heat veins on the thing to like radiate out the heat. Maybe you need fans or whatever, right? So these are all problems that you have to deal with. And then you got to think, well, okay, if I'm going to run the fuel, you're going to need some kind of fuel line, right? Something has to carry that fuel up there. Oh, but the problem is that we can't run the fuel line through the fucking heat. Shit, we got to separate these things, right? So maybe what we do is we take our heat dissipation, we run our fuel line up to our output like that, but maybe our heat dissipation is out here, right? So we can do something like that, and we can blow it out that way, right? I don't know. I can't tell you what your solution will be in advance. This is a problem. This is a skill that you have to develop. And you're only going to be able, look, you're going to make a lot of lemons, okay? You're going to make a lot of things that are going to be kind of shit, all right? But that's okay. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to make some shit, all right? First make shit, then make it good, all right? Make it exist first, then make it good. And the thing is that your 1.0 versions, okay? Like your 0.1, your alpha versions, your alpha versions can be the things that you issue to the SWAT team first. All right. And so the first few episodes, they're having to use the jank ass versions with all the problems. You know, they're prone that if you shoot too many fucking spells, they blow up. The wand blows up. The fucking fuel goes off. So and maybe, yeah, they have a few problems where, like, yeah, you got a bunch of scarred guys, they got scarred up hands or missing hands because they had some wand accidents, right? That adds character and flavor to your story, right? You've got situations where a guy's like, fuck, I've cast too many spells. This wand is overheating. It's on the verge of blowing up. Let me borrow your wand. Let me borrow the other guy's fucking wand. No, I can't use that wand because it's calibrated to my output, right? So these all become wrinkles to the story. This means that you, as an artist, are no longer just a pen that draws. Now you are adopting some of the aspects of writing, right? Now you're becoming the wellspring. You're becoming the source. You're becoming, you know, the source of the seeds. So you know, first you issue these versions on your later episodes, then your magical development squad, the magical development division come up. You know, the other versions you made that were better, that solve these problems, then you issue those out to the squad, and then they get the better ones and they deal with those, and those can be for the later episodes. It's okay. Make use of your failures. Use all parts of the buffalo. That's fine. Make mistakes. Fuck up. Okay? It's okay. You're allowed not to be perfect. In fact, you know, it's better if you're not. It's better if you're not perfect, because these imperfections make your story richer for it. Your story will be better for it. Your storytelling becomes better for it. I don't know. Let's see. What else can I talk about? What else should I talk about? I don't think I should really say more. I think the story will. I think this thing will just drag on. I think this talk is probably 26 minutes long, and I think I'll just wind up losing more people. Okay, good. Let's end it here.